You've been lied to about poverty, not in the way you think. The lie isn't that poor people are lazy or that rich people work harder. The lie is subtler, more mathematical, more brutal. The lie is that poverty is simply the absence of money. It's not. Poverty is a tax system, a complex, perfectly engineered machine that extracts wealth from those who have the least and transfers it. And the genius of this system is that it's completely invisible to the people paying for it. Let me be direct with you. This video will show you the actual mathematics of being broke, not metaphors, not motivational speeches about working harder. The cold numerical reality of why, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and once you see these mechanisms, once you understand the architecture of this invisible tax system, more importantly, you'll understand exactly how to dismantle it in your own life. This isn't just about money. The principles I'm about to reveal operate in every domain where value exists. Your career, your relationships, your creative work, your social influence, everything. Because at the deepest level, poverty isn't a financial state. It's a pattern of thinking that compounds into a pattern of behavior, that compounds into a mathematical. And that pattern can be broken, but only if you understand the machinery first. Let's start with something small, a check engine light. Your car starts making that sound, you know the one. That subtle clicking that you're pretty sure is nothing serious. You're probably right. It's likely a sensor issue or a minor component, $300 to fix. But you don't have $300. You have rent in 5 days and groceries to buy, so you ignore it. You tell yourself you'll deal with it next month. 3 weeks later, you're on the side of the highway. The minor issue became a major one. The component that would have cost $300 to replace has now destroyed other parts of the repair bill is $2,500, but it gets worse. You miss 3 days of work while the car is in the shop. That's another $400 in lost wages. And because you don't have $2,500 either, over the next year, you'll pay nearly $3,000 total for a problem that could have been solved. The rich man fixes his check engine light immediately. The poor man pays 10 times more and still ends up with a worse car. This is not a metaphor. This is mathematics. This is the first principle, the domino effect of small crises. When you lack the financial buffer to solve small problems immediately, every delayed repair, every ignored health symptom, every temporary patch job costs exponentially more in the poor pay a penalty for not having money to prevent problems. Now let me show you something even more fundamental. There's a passage from a Terry Pratchett novel that contains more economic truth than most textbooks. The character Sam Vimes has a theory about boots. A good pair of boots costs $100, but will last 10 years. A cheap pair of boots costs $30, but falls apart after 1 season. After 10 years, the poor man has spent $300 on boots and still has wet feet. The rich man spent $100 once, and his feet have been dry for a decade. This is not about boots. This is about everything. Mattresses, kitchen appliances, work clothes, furniture, tools. The poor are forced by their poverty to buy inferior products that break quickly. Meanwhile, the wealthy buy once, buy quality, and never think about it again. The poor person spends more money over time and still has inferior goods. This is the Boots Theory. Quality requires capital. Without capital, you are mathematically sentenced to waste money on temporary solutions. But it goes deeper than durability. There's an entire economic phenomenon called the poverty premium. The poor pay more for literally the same goods. Not because they choose to, because they have no choice. Walk into any convenience store in a poor neighborhood. A single roll of toilet paper costs $2. Drive to a suburban warehouse store where you can buy in bulk. A 48-pack costs $24, 50 cents per roll. The poor person pays 4 times as much per unit because they can't afford to buy in volume. They don't have $30 to spend at once, even though it would save them money. They don't have a car to drive to the bulk store. They don't have the storage space in their small apartment, so they pay the poverty tax every single day. The banking system does the same thing in reverse. If you maintain a minimum balance of $5,000 in your checking account, if you drop below that threshold, they charge you $12 a month in maintenance fees. The bank literally pays people who have money and punishes people who don't. Over a year, a poor person can pay $500 in fees, while a wealthy person earns $50 in the same bank, the same service. A $600 wealth transfer from the person who has nothing to the institution that has everything. This is systematic, this is intentional, and this is invisible to the people paying for it because it happens in small increments. $5 here, $12 there. But compound those fees over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Now I need to tell you about the most insidious tax of all. The one that doesn't show up on any receipt. The psychological tax. Researchers have discovered something remarkable. When you put someone in a state of financial scarcity, when you force them to constantly worry about money, we're not talking about stress making you tired. We're talking about scarcity reducing your effective IQ by 13 points. 13 points. That's the difference between average intelligence and borderline impairment. When your brain is consumed with figuring out how to pay rent, how to afford groceries, for long-term planning, for carefully evaluating options, you make decisions in a state of panic, and panic makes you stupid. This is why poor people sometimes make what appear to be irrational financial choices. Payday loans at 400% interest, lottery tickets with infinitesimal odds, fast food despite being more expensive and less healthy than cooking. These aren't moral failures. These are the mathematical outputs of a system that has stolen your ability to think clearly. The wealthy person has the mental space to research the best interest rates, to compare insurance policies. The poor person is trying to survive until Friday. And that difference in mental bandwidth compounds just like interest. Every bad decision made under cognitive load leads to worse circumstances, which increases the cognitive load. It's a spiral that feeds itself. And then there's time. Time is the resource that poverty steals most efficiently. If you have money, you can buy time. You can pay for delivery instead of taking 2 buses to a cheaper grocery store. You can hire someone to fix your plumbing instead of spending 6 hours watching YouTube tutorials. And still, you can afford to live near your job instead of commuting 3 hours a day. But if you're poor, you pay for everything with time. Time that could have been spent learning a new skill. Time that could have been spent with your family. Time that could have been spent resting so you don't make mistakes at work. The poor work more hours, commute longer distances, spend more time on basic errands. Time poverty is as real as financial poverty, and they reinforce each other. Let's talk about assets. There are 2 kinds. Assets of survival and assets of wealth. A car can be either. The wealthy person buys a reliable 3-year-old Honda for $18,000 with a 3%. Total cost over 5 years, $19,000. The car requires minimal maintenance and will run for another decade. The poor person buys a 12-year-old car with high mileage for $6,000 with a 24. They end up paying $11,000 for a car that's worth $3,000. And because the car is old, it breaks down constantly. More repairs, more missed work, more emergency expenses. Within 3 years, they've paid more than the wealthy person, and they have a worthless vehicle. They didn't choose to overpay. They were forced to by lack of capital. Housing is the same mathematics on a larger scale. Rent is interest at 100%. Every month you pay money to live somewhere, and at the end of the year you have nothing. You paid someone else's mortgage. You built someone else's wealth. The landlord is using your rent to acquire an asset that appreciates in value while you acquire nothing. Meanwhile, the homeowner pays roughly the same amount monthly, but it's building equity. After 30 years, the renter has paid $500,000 and owns nothing. The homeowner has paid $500,000 and owns a house worth $400,000. But the renter can't become a homeowner because they can't save for a down payment because rent is too high. The system is perfectly designed to trap you. So how do you break it? Let me be very clear about something. I'm not going to tell you to work harder or cut out coffee or use coupons. Those things are rearranging deck chairs. The goal isn't to optimize poverty. The goal is to escape the mathematical trap. And there is a way out, but it requires understanding the machinery so precisely that you can dismantle it. The first piece is the buffer. The first $10,000 you save is the most important money you will ever accumulate. Not because $10,000 is life-changing wealth, it's not. But $10,000 is the weapon that destroys the poverty tax. With $10,000 you can fix the check engine light immediately. You can buy the good boots. You can avoid overdraft fees. You can take 3 days off to interview for a better job without panicking about missing wages. You can move closer to work and eliminate the commuting tax. $10,000 breaks the crisis cycle. Every dollar after that is easier to save because you're no longer paying the poverty premium. But here's what most people get wrong. They try to save while still paying the poverty tax. They try to invest in the stock market while carrying credit card debt at 22%. That's insane. If you're paying 22% interest on debt, Paying off that debt is a guaranteed 22%. Show me an investment with a guaranteed 22% annual return. You can't, because it doesn't exist outside of eliminating your own high-interest debt. So the strategy is simple. Stop the bleeding first. Before you invest in anything, eliminate every source of guaranteed wealth extraction, high-interest debt, bank fees, subscriptions you don't use, the poverty premium on goods you can buy in bulk. Then and only then do you build the buffer, and you build it irrationally fast. Every extra dollar goes there, not to retirement, not to investments, to the buffer. Because the buffer has an infinite return, it eliminates crises that would cost you 10 times what you saved. Once you have the buffer, you can start thinking strategically instead of reactively. You can make decisions with a clear mind instead of under cognitive load. You can buy quality instead of cheap. You can invest in appreciating assets instead of depreciating ones. This is the inflection point. And I need you to understand something. Most people watching this video will not do what I just described. They'll agree with it. They'll understand the logic. And they'll change nothing. Because the poverty trap isn't just mathematical. It's psychological. It requires you to believe that you can escape it. And most people have been conditioned to believe that their circumstances are permanent. That they are who they are. That they aren't good with money, that they aren't smart enough or disciplined enough or lucky enough. So before we go further, I need to know if you're actually committed to this. If you are, I want you to do something. Comment below with this phrase, "I refuse to pay the poverty tax." That's it. Not a long explanation, not your life story, just that one sentence, and here's why this matters. When you make a public declaration, something changes in your brain. It's no longer just a private thought. It's a statement of identity. And your brain will work to make your behavior consistent with your public identity. This isn't motivational nonsense, this is basic psychology. Public commitment creates accountability to your future self. So if you're serious, comment now. And while you're at it, hit the like button. Not because I need the engagement, though I do appreciate it, but because that small action is practice. It's you training yourself to take small steps toward new behaviors. Everything big starts with something small. Subscribing to this channel is another micro-commitment. It's you telling yourself that you're the kind of person who seeks out this information. That you're the kind of person who thinks strategically. Do that now, then come back. Because what I'm about to tell you next is the part that separates the people who escape from the people who... We've covered the mathematics of the trap, the domino effect, the Boots Theory, the poverty premium, the psychological tax, the time theft, the asset trap. Those are the visible mechanisms, the obvious ones. Anyone with a calculator and some life experience can see those patterns. But there's a deeper layer. A layer that most people never perceive because it operates not in the external world but in the architecture. And this is where real transformation happens. Not in your bank account first, in your mind first. Let me introduce you to something. There are two ways human beings think about their own abilities. Two distinct operating systems running in the background of every decision you make. Researcher Carol Dweck spent decades studying this, and what she discovered changes everything. She called them fixed mindset and growth mindset, and the difference between them is the difference between someone who escapes poverty and someone who doesn't. A person with a fixed mindset believes that their intelligence, their talents, their abilities are static. You're either smart or you're not. You're either good with money or you're not. You're either the kind of person who succeeds or you're not. And here's the trap. If you believe your abilities are fixed, then every failure is a verdict on who you are. You tried to start a business and it failed. That means you're not an entrepreneur. You tried to learn investing and lost money. That means you're not good at finance. You tried to negotiate a raise and got rejected. That means you're not valuable. Each failure confirms your fundamental inadequacy, so you stop trying. Why bother if you're just going to fail again? Because that's who you are. The person with a growth mindset believes something radically different. They believe abilities are developed through effort and learning. Failure isn't a verdict. It's data. It's information about what needs to be adjusted. You tried to start a business and it failed. That means you haven't learned the right business skills yet. You tried investing and lost money. That means you haven't mastered risk assessment yet. You tried to negotiate and got rejected. That means you haven't learned negotiation tactics yet. Every failure is a diagnosis pointing toward what to study next. The word yet is a weapon. It transforms identity from fixed to fluid. I'm not good at this yet. I don't understand this yet. I haven't succeeded at this yet. This isn't semantic games. This rewires how your brain processes setbacks. Neuroscience shows that people with growth mindset have different brain activity when they make mistakes. Their brains light up with attention and learning signals. Their brains treat errors as interesting problems to solve. People with fixed mindset show the opposite pattern. Their brains shut down, they disengage. They avoid thinking about the mistake because it feels like an attack on their identity. And that difference compounds over years into completely different life trajectories. So let's make this practical. Right now, I want you to audit your self-talk. When you encounter something difficult, what's your internal narrative? Is it, I'm not good at math, or is it, I haven't learned this type of math yet? Is it, I always fail at businesses, or is it, I haven't developed the business skills yet? Is it, I'm just not a disciplined person, or is it, I haven't built the systems that make discipline automatic? That one word yet keeps the door open. It preserves the possibility of change. And possibility is the currency of transformation. But understanding growth mindset intellectually doesn't automatically give you growth mindset. You have to practice it. Deliberately, here's how. Every time you catch yourself in fixed mindset language, stop. Reframe it out loud. Literally say the growth mindset version. I'm not tech savvy becomes I haven't learned these tech skills yet. I'm terrible at public speaking becomes I haven't practiced public speaking enough yet. This feels ridiculous at first. You'll feel like you're lying to yourself. Good. That discomfort is your brain rewiring. Do it anyway. Do it 100 times, 1,000 times, until the new pattern becomes automatic. And here's the part most people miss. Growth mindset doesn't mean believing you can do anything. It means believing you can improve at anything through the right kind of practice. That distinction is critical. You might not become a world-class pianist if you start at 40 with no musical background, but you can become competent. You can learn to play songs you enjoy. You can develop the skill to a level that brings you satisfaction. The question isn't, can I be the best? The question is, can I get better? And the answer is always yes if you're willing to endure the discomfort of being temporarily incompetent. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Growth requires discomfort, always. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. You're maintaining. And maintenance is fine if you're already where you want to be. But if you're trying to escape poverty, maintenance is death. You need growth. And growth means deliberately putting yourself in situations where you don't know what you're doing, where you feel stupid, where you make mistakes in front of people. That feeling of incompetence is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're in the growth zone. The only people who never feel incompetent are people who never try anything new. They stay in their comfort zone their entire lives, wondering why nothing ever changes. Most people avoid criticism like poison, especially people with fixed mindset. Because if your abilities are fixed, then criticism is an attack on your unchangeable nature. It's devastating. But if you have growth mindset, criticism is free consulting. Someone is telling you exactly what you need to improve. Even harsh criticism, even unfair criticism, even criticism from people who don't like you. There's signal in all of it if you're willing to extract it. The question isn't, is this criticism fair? The question is, what can I learn from this? Even if the criticism is 90% wrong, there's usually a 10% kernel of truth that can make. Find it, use it. Thank the person for it. This is advanced level thinking. This is how you turn enemies into teachers. Now let me tell you about perfection. Perfection is a trap. It's the most seductive trap for smart people. Because if you have high standards, perfectionism feels like virtue. It feels like refusing to settle. But perfectionism isn't high standards. Perfectionism is fear. It's the fear that if you produce something imperfect, people will see that you're not as good as you pretend. So you never ship. You never launch. You never publish. You endlessly refine in private, waiting for the moment when it's perfect enough. That moment never comes. And while you're perfecting, someone with lower standards and more courage ships their mediocre product, and done is better than perfect. Version 1 is supposed to be embarrassing. If you're not embarrassed by your first version, you waited too long to launch. The solution is to celebrate micro-progress, to rewire your dopamine system away from outcome dependence and toward process appreciation. You didn't get the promotion, but you asked for it, and that's growth. Your business didn't profit yet, but you made your first sale, and that's growth. Your video didn't go viral, but you published it, and that's growth. Every small win strengthens the neural pathway that says I'm the kind of person who takes action. And that identity compounds. Small wins create momentum. Momentum creates more wins. Wins create confidence. Confidence creates bigger actions. It's a virtuous cycle, but you have to start it. And you start it by valuing the process more than the outcome. Because here's the secret. Outcomes are partially random. You can do everything right and still fail because of factors outside your control. But the process is entirely under your control. You control whether you show up, whether you practice, whether you study, whether you ship. And if you control the process, outcomes eventually take care of themselves, maybe not today, maybe not this month. But sustained right process always produces right outcomes given enough time. The people who quit are the ones who judge themselves only on outcomes. The people who win are the ones who fall in love with the process. So here's your action step. Today. Not tomorrow. Today. Pick one thing you've been avoiding because you're afraid you'll be bad at it. And do it badly. On purpose. Do it with the explicit goal of producing something terrible. Record a video and don't edit it. Write an article and don't proofread it. Reach out to someone for help and sound awkward. The goal is to break the perfectionism paralysis. To prove to yourself that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And then observe what happens. Nothing catastrophic. No one cares as much as you think. And you've just rewired your brain slightly toward action. Do that 100 times, and you'll be unrecognizable. This is the work, this is the actual transformation. Not the tactics, not the strategies. The shift from fix to growth, from outcome to process. From perfection to iteration. From avoidance to exposure. This is what separates people who change their lives from people who just watch videos about changing their. And the beautiful thing is that this work costs nothing. You don't need capital. You don't need connections. You don't need permission. You just need the willingness to be uncomfortable and the discipline to keep going when it feels like nothing. Everything I've described today, the poverty tax and the mindset shift, you fix your thinking, and your thinking fixes your circumstances, but it doesn't happen by accident. It happens through deliberate practice, through conscious choice, through small actions repeated until they become identity. So I'll ask you one more time, are you actually going to do this? Comment below, I refuse to pay the poverty tax. Make it real. Make it public. Make it a commitment you can't take back. And then start today, right now, one small action. That's all transformation ever is. One small action, then another, until one day you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. You're someone who creates value, someone who thinks strategically, someone who refuses to accept the mathematics of staying broke. Be that person, starting now.